Hello, this is Christian. Welcome to episode 6 of this guestbook series. This is another bonus chapter or video. I want to go over this guestbook here, and now we're going to convert everything to, well, not everything, but most of the functions in database connection using the object-oriented approach. So here is our app, and so far it's using the procedural approaches only, so everything here is written in procedural, or most of them anyway. I'm going to convert it to using object-oriented, and here is the assignment note. Here I said that we're going to change all the DB to use a class called DB. Inside of DB, we're going to create a new connection using the new MySQLi instead of the MySQLi underscore connect. We use that. It's an object. And then we're going to also make modifications to our internal functions that are now part of the function, the class. It's a methods now. And so when we make a query like this, we're going to call it using the this keyword with the arrow, right? And so everywhere will also be a change to this. And then also ask that you create a new class called utility function. This is an abstract class. And as you know, abstract classes cannot be used to instantiate objects directly. And in this class, we're going to create 4 methods. 2 of those will be abstract, which means they will need to be implemented by the lower class or the child class. And then we're going to have also 2 standard methods, the footer and then the redirection. So this is the example here. And then we're going to create another class called the guestbook function. This could be the same function file we used. This is the child class, so it will extend the parent class. Okay, and so inside this class, we need to implement the header and guestbook tab nav. And then in the config, we need to create 2 objects that will handle both the DB connection and also the guestbook function to display our forms. Okay, so let's go and see how this can be done. Actually, you can see it's fairly simple. I'm going to go and make a copy of our unit 2. That's the one that we had earlier. And just going to copy right in here, and we'll make this the unit 4. Alright, so let's go and do the database first inside here, the DB connection. So we're going to wrap all of these inside a class called DB. And let me put that curly brace at the very end and the bottom down here. Okay, so we're good here. Then we need to go and create a connection using the object-oriented. So we need to remove the connect and just use that, but use the new in front because this is now a constructor. It's an alias to the constructor, really, but it is a constructor. And you can leave it like this if you want, but I want to create an object to contain this connection here. So just in case if you need to return this connection string, you can get it. But now you can't really, you can still get it because we're going to return that anyway. But I'll put it so that it's inside a variable here. So have private, you can call it the same name. We'll set it to null for now. And then this is the same variable, right? So we're going to say this and then arrow that. And this is the same thing. And we'll do one more down here. Okay, so that is now done. And it says you should probably create a replay with a local variable. Yeah, that's fine. I'm going to go ahead and create a setter and getter so I can get this private data back. And well, actually, when I want to do this way here, I don't really need the return anymore because when I do the assignment, okay, I automatically assign to this already, and so there's no need to return. All right. So this part you can ignore. If it's successful, you can put something here. So really, this can be written. If it's connected, then we're good. If it's not connected, we throw the error. Right. So here I would just say if not connected, then we throw the error. So we can replace and remove all of that. We just check for the not connected place. Okay. So remove that. Otherwise, it's all good. Okay, so now let's create the setter and getter for the connections. We can get the connection string return because now we modify this and this one does not return any connection string. So I'm going to go to the very bottom just to make my code a bit easier to manage. Here I put the getter just in case if you have more to add later, and setter methods. Mistyped. Then just do a right click, generate setter and getter, and then just say OK. Oh, we didn't do it? Oh, yeah, it did. Oh, I put it on top. Okay. There you go. That's my connection. And then now we got that done. And so we need to invoke this function now because we didn't invoke that. You can leave this as if you want. Is that when you instantiate the DB object, like you would in the config file, you do something like this. So DB is equal to new DB, right? If I do that, then I create an instance or an object of the DB class, but I did not make the connection yet until I invoke that function. So once you do that, then you have to do it separately. So DB and then connect, right? And then now it's connected. So once connected, then you're good to go. Okay, so you can either do it this way, or you can say, oh, you know what, I'm going to create a constructor here. The constructor underscore underscore, and then I invoke this function connect automatically, so that when I instantiate this object, this is called automatically. So I don't need that here. Yep. So that's how I want it. So I'm going to go ahead and keep that, and let me remove that just in case if I forget. All right. So now this is done. Let me close that, and then this make query. This function here returns a you make the query here. This is the procedural method, and then notice that when we do the procedural method, we have to pass in the handle. The handle, if you remember, was the actual connection. So if I go back to, let's just say that the edit page, right? Remember that in the config, let's get config first. Config, we make that DB connection through the con object, and then the edit, because we include it at the top, we pass that connection to this get one record, right? That's what we needed that here. But now because we have an object that will access these class functions directly through the object, we don't need to handle anymore. Okay, because these will be handled through this object. This object replaces the handle. And so it's redundant to do it this way. So we're not going to need that anymore. Unless, of course, if you have a different connection in a different class and you want to pass that connection because you want to share these functions, and then yeah, you can do that, but otherwise, so all these will be replaced, or with this, we don't need them here, because this can be handled accessed locally. So anywhere else we have this handle, just remove them all. I'm doing manually here, but you can find another way to do this quickly, is do a search and find, but oops, just do it manually. And here, a few more down here. One more. Okay, I think that's it. Good. All right, so the next thing we want to change is these other statements, like you make the queries like these. Okay, these we need to say we cannot call it directly. No, we have to go through this object like that, right? And then we invoke that. Okay, so I'm going to go in and replace. Look at search and replace. It's quicker. I'm going to replace this whole thing. Return make query. I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to go to the I think the edit, find and replace, or Control R. Find that and then replace it with this one here, which is good, right? Replace that, and then just put here return, and then $this, like that. Okay, there are about 4 of them only, so just go and replace all. Okay, so hopefully those are all replaced. And did not, well, this one didn't, well, it didn't work. Oh well, got that one there. This one didn't work either. Yeah, because your unit used it differently. Anywhere else? Okay, so I think that's pretty much everything. If not, it'll catch it for us. And then this also, this is the procedural method. if it's procedural method, you need to have, remember we had the handle before, right? We remove that. But if you call this method, this is procedural, you need to have a connection. So we need to pass in this connection like that. This is the procedural method. The object method is basically you remove this whole thing and replace it with our connection as string. So remove that and replace it with this. So basically this one here comes in front, and then you point that to that query. And this is the object-oriented method. Okay, so that's for that one. Excuse me. All right, so let's see. Let's turn this off. Okay, so we got that done, and a few things also we need to modify is so this is good. This is good. What else? It's a record. This is good. Query. Okay. So right here, this is again, this is procedural method, right? So when you want to use the object-oriented method, we're not gonna use this function. We just use the function called numRows, and the numRows will look something kind of similar to this, but it's, I mean, you're not gonna be able to remember all this. Okay, you can always refer to the documentation in php.net. You get there. But I believe you just basically move this to the front up here, replace this with a result. So go to result, and then arrow that numRows, and remove out of that function parameter argument. So now you use this way. Same thing when you do the fetch. Where's the fetch? Yeah, this one here, same thing, right? So again, I remove this row result out and replace this with this MySQLi, and then arrow the numRows. This is same thing. This is part of the fetching of the result here. This result make the object. So again, remove that, put it in front of this, and then arrow that. And there we go. This is just as is. Okay, so we made everything here pretty much object-oriented. If it's not, we'll come back and we'll make any changes. But I think so far, so good. So this is done. Let's go to the functions. All right, so this will be the same thing. So convert this to a function class. So we call it class, and we'll call it guestbook function. This will extend a utility function, which we will create. Again, just move this to the very bottom. I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom down here and put it right after that. And we can format that to make it nice. Okay, so let's go back to the top. And so why don't we create this function first? So just mouse over that and click create class, and just accept the way it is. Just say OK, and you see that it created for us automatically. So this is the abstract class. So we need to add abstract here first. Inside here we have 4 methods we're going to create. So the first 2 will be abstract methods. And these are called the abstract function. I think what's show header. And abstract functions do not have implementation. You just leave it like that. The other one is the abstract function, I think it says get top nav. Okay, we need those 2 to be implemented. Down here we have the full function. Let's put it here. And we'll copy this from the functions here. So this is the one that we need. So you can copy that and put it right here. And we need one more, the footer. So we need to get the footer right here, cut that, and put it right here. So those 2 are implemented. These 2 are not. These 2 are required to be implemented by the child class. So this part is pretty much done. And go to the functions file. So notice we already have created this top nav and show header. That's why there's no problem here, right? Because we extend that function, that class over here. If I were to move this out, if I were to delete that, you'll see there's a red line. If I mouse over that, it says you must implement the show header function. And if I say add stub, it's going to add that for me like this, somewhere down the bottom, I think. So if we go to the bottom down here, you see it added here, right? So that's what it means. So we don't need to do that because I already have it. I'm just going to undo and go back to the top and undo. That's what we had already. So we're good there. Okay, now this utility file function is in a separate class. So you have to either import it here or in the config file right before the function configuration here, file, you have to import it up here. So let me just duplicate this line. So you can do it this way. Guestbook, utility function PHP here. It must come before the child class, okay? If they are separate files. If they're same files, it doesn't matter. But if it's separate files, then they have to be created first. So you can do it this way, like this. If you put like this, it won't work. Okay, it was going to say cannot find this because it doesn't exist. Or if you want to prevent that from happening because you always need it before the functions, then you can import it inside the functions file, like on the top here. So at the top, you just include that here, and it will always work because now it's safe, right? So you can save that, and then now we need to make some changes in here because these are now classes. So you cannot just call the get top nav directly like this anymore. So again, same rules, this arrow. So I'm going to copy this. I call that function here. Is there anywhere else I need to call other functions? Now this handle here is the connection. Again, go back to the edit, right? Remember we made the connection. We passed an object to it. This object is the database connection. That's why we are using that inside here. So you can use it as connection handle if you want, like the way it is. That's fine. If you want to make it a different variable like db, because we're going to change it to db, you can use that as well. That's fine too. But since our code is using handle, I'll just leave it as handle here. But remember, this is a db connection with a db object. And so we see that if I need that, I made a connection call right here to the get all records. This is part of that function the database. So remember we changed it. We don't have db handle anymore. So this is going to come to the front, right? Come to the front like this, and then arrow that. And then we remove that from the argument. This is back to where before. I'm making a counter here. The result, right? Same rule. This result comes to the front, and then replace this MySQL underscore with an arrow. Okay, so we got that, and then I think that's good there. Show guestbook. I think nothing is there. The result again here again. This result, right? Result. So drag it to the front. Replace the MySQL with the arrow. So here we go. Anything else? The form registration. I think that's it for now. Looks good. If there's errors, it will detect it for us. So we are now ready to go to the config file and create those connections. So here we use connection. You can use the name, but I recommend if we're going to change it to use db instead. It just makes more sense. So new db. And then we also have one for the gfn for guestbook functions. It's a new guestbook function object. So these two objects will be passed around in all our files to make those connections. So let's go and do the delete first. Delete. I need to use a gfn here, right? And then this is going to be in the database. So this is the db. And then remember we removed that connection, the con. I think that's it. Oh, down here. This would be, both of this would be the gfn. Let's copy this. Maybe just copy and paste faster. Okay, so I think that's done. Let's move on to the next one, the edit. Edit at the top. This is the gfn. And I'll do the gfn first. I'll come back and do the other one, since I already have it copied and ram. The show header, show edit form, and get footer. Okay, so those are done. Let's go back up here, and then we need to update these to use the db, and then remove the con. And anywhere else? One more up here, db, remove the connection. All right, I think that's good for this one. So let's indent that. Let's save that one, go to the index. This will be the GFN, and then GFN here as well. I think just those two here. Okay, we're done there. The login. This is the DB. So DB, oops, DB. Remove that connection, and I think we're good there. Yeah. So down here would be the guestbook, show header, and then show form, and then show get footer. All right. Save that. Go to the logout. Anything? Nope, nothing there. Register the show header. Show the form and get the footer. Okay, so any DB here? Think there might be. So the very top trim. Yeah, right here. This is the DB. Remove the connection. And then maybe one more here, right? Yeah, insert. DB. Remove the connection. I think that's it here. Okay, let's save this and go to sign up. It's the GFN here. The top. This would be the DB. And then I think that's it for this one. And then one more for the view. So this would be the GFN and GFN here. Okay, so here we pass in connection. It's no longer called connection. It's called DB now, right? And we change it to DB. Make sure you pass that in there. I think that's it for this one. All right, so well, let's take a look and see what happens. Let's go and run this file from the index page. And let's see, do I have that up and running already? Oh yeah, but it's in a unit 2. It's an old unit, so I want to run from the new one. Okay, so let's close that. All right, the unit 4, that's good. So you can see it looks okay, right? I go to view, I'm able to see everything here. Guestbook looks good. Registration, login. Let's just try if I can sign a guestbook here. Put it here, guest1, g1 at g.com, and then guest here. Okay, submit. Looks okay. And there it is. All right, so it looks good. Can we edit? We'll have to log in, right? Well, I mean, everything looks good here. We can log in. I don't remember our password anymore. But let's just register. Yeah, well, let's just say user 4 now. User 5. U5, and then 1212, 1212. Okay, so I have an error here. So number 4, line 87, the DB, it says undefined method must kill live result. Okay, so let's go see what that is. The num rows at line 87. So the DB, I think I closed it. 87 and result num rows. I think that's what the errors were referring to, right? Oh, phone call, sorry. All right, sorry. Yeah, I gotta pick up the phone call. All right, so 87, it says, what's the error say again? Cannot define this method. Oh, yeah, method. I think it's not a method. Yeah, it's tricky. I think this is not a method. I think just call num rows like that. Let's give it a try. Anywhere else I'd do it? I call that somewhere else? Yeah, it should be just num rows. Okay, let me just change that too. Okay, well, let's go back and give it another test. I'll just refresh it. Okay, good. Yeah, that was just a property. Now let's log in, and it was a user 5 and 1212. So we have an error here. It goes to the vehicle. Why is that? I think I must have changed something in the version 2 vehicle. Okay, it should not go to the vehicle class. Let's take a look inside the functions, wherever you are. Let's open that here. And the registration form. Yeah, PHP self. It goes to the self. And when I register that, register. When I'm done, why would it go to the vehicle? I must have played something with it before with the unit 2, and it goes to the vehicle. It should not go to the vehicle. It should go to the index. Okay. But anyway, let's see if it's in there now. So I am logged in. So when I view my guestbook, I'm able to edit. Okay. And looks good. And so on. Okay. All right. Yeah, I think just see, it keeps going to the vehicle. Yeah, it must be in the redirect. Let's see in the redirect. Yeah, go in the vehicle. I'm not sure. I think when I did on the vehicle for Unit 3, I did a search and find and replace all the index to vehicle. That's why. All right, so that should solve that problem. Okay, now I think it's fully functional. As you can see, everything looks good here, right? Now, one thing I want to just add in here is for security reasons, just really quick, hopefully, is that when you have your database like this, you don't want to expose all this information like the way I have it here, okay? Because it's now in the root of your folder called unit 4 in the include. Because all of these can be accessible in the browser. If I happen to, forgot to do something in there, I can actually see the data here. So, for example, in the DB folder, inside the include folder, if I go to the browser and let's say if I get to that folder, it includes. Yeah, this is not allowing me to do, which is great, but sometimes you see the information here. But anyways, if you see any of those files, it's not safe because it's inside here. Anything sensitive, and if it's going to be included inside a PHP file, you want to move those information outside of the root of your server. So the server starts here, the local host at the port number here. It stops here, right? So this part is really the root of your folder, which is in the htdocs folder. htdocs ends right here, right? So let me open this file in the Explorer right here. So you can see that in the Explorer. If I go up in the htdocs, the XAMPP, this is where your server lives inside here. So the browser sees everything inside here. Okay, that's why I'm able to go to the GTC and or advanced, whatever it is, to go here and then see my information here. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to create a file that stores all these sensitive data here into another directory, maybe usually outside of the root of your server. So that means outside in the XAMPP folder, let me create another directory here, and we'll call this private. Okay, so in that private folder, I'm going to move this information here into that folder and create a new file. So let's go back in here first and create a new file, and I'll call it, I'll just call it, private, data.php. And I'll move this information, this is the private, move it into this private data file. Okay, save that, and then import it back in here. But you need to import it from the root of your domain or the server to that file. Okay, so you're not going to get the relative path here. It's safer to do that way. And so let's go into the directory again. And I have it inside my htdocs. And then the GTC Advanced PHP Unit 4 includes, this is the file I want to move. So I'm going to cut that file and go back out to the private folder. And you put it in here, okay? So I'm going to copy this URL. This is the link we need. Copy that, and then go back in here, import back into the DB file. and using the entire path. So it has to be the / here, and then slash, and the file is called private PHP. Okay, so now PHP can access like this files, but you cannot access this from the URL. It's secure, right? So if I save this, and if I go to the URL, if I try to access that using something like this, it won't work, okay? It's not going to let you do it because this is starting from the htdocs only, which is why it's really important to do that. And so you can see everything still works just fine, right? And is it really working or not? Well, we can change that, and I can go back to the file, which I closed it already. I can go back to my doesn't matter. Go back here, and let's change the folder. For example, I change it to, let's just say private it, right? I just change the folder name to private it. So that means this is not longer exists. I cannot access the data. And then if I run my file again, okay, I should get some error. As you can see, I have a bunch of errors now. It's not found. And then this throws another security issue. What security is it? Well, it tells me, hey, your file is in the C drive, the XAMPP folder, private folder, it's called here. I say, aha, so that's where it is, right? You want that to be secret. You don't want to show this. So this is a problem. You don't want to show this to the user at all. Okay, when your site is running in production mode, never show this information. And which is why we have those try catch blocks to display some relevant information to them only. You don't want to show this. So how do you prevent this from happening if you have such a problem? And to fix that problem, you can go and then, in each file, if you want to do in each file, that's fine. We can go to the config file. And since it's in the config file, let me go to the config file. At the very top here, you can control error messages. So you can say error reporting is the function you want to call. So have error reporting, and you can have in here a reporting number. If you mouse over this, click in here, press the control spacebar, it tells you all these types of these constants. Okay, because right now the default is to display all your error messages. This is same as saying ER. Okay, that displays all your error messages, or I'm not sure if it's, or is it all or just warning? Maybe just warning. I don't remember. But you don't want to do that because you want to set it to 0. The 0 is the off. So if I do that, then all the error messages will be suppressed, and you will not be able to see those messages again. If I do a refresh again, you see that it's now gone. Right now gone. You can't tell anymore because it looks like it's working, but it's not because it has an error, right? And you can't tell in this case. So that's not friendly either. You want to be able to show some messages. So then you can say, okay, well, just show me some type of messages. Which one is it? Again, press Control spacebar. It tells you here. So these are constants. They also represent or equal to these numbers here. These are your binary numbers. So either one will be fine because it's just harder to memorize these numbers, easier to remember the constant. So you can use either one. If you want to show only like compile errors, then you put 64. If you want to show only anything that is a notice, you put 8, right, and so on. So 0 is the one that you use for live production, and so that's what you should do. Okay. So let's see. If I put let's see, the warning. I think the default is maybe 2. If I put warning here, then you'll see all the error messages back again. Right? So that failed because you couldn't find the file. That's a fatal error. And then if you want to go back and change that file back to where it was before, and let's change the private back to private. Okay, so that should work now. So everything's back again. Okay, so the next thing, if I go to the file again, and let's say I'm going to change this content to I want to change the DB to just 25 or something. There's no such table, right? So if I save that, or with the DB here, just put like guestbook 5, and if I save that file, and if I go back and refresh it, you get now something message, a warning still, right? And so that's why you want to suppress those error messages, and because it tells too much about your information. Okay, so here it tells you warning. If I remove that completely, 0, and then if I go back and run again, you see that those error messages go away and you can't tell. Okay, so once you have it fully functional and everything's good to go, just suppress those errors. Put 0 in there. Okay, so that's all I wanted to tell you here. All right, so we'll end here. I know it's quite long, but I hope this is give you some ideas about object-oriented, about securities for your private or sensitive data. Thank you.